Welcome to the first session this morning on IPMX. This is a brief update just to help orient everyone on what's going on at NAB this year on this topic. So let me begin by introducing myself. My name is Samuel Recine. I am a member of AIMS. I'm the chairman of the Pro-EV working group. I'm also on the AIMS board. And I'm also an employee of Matrox. I'm the vice president of strategic partnerships at Matrox. So let's take a very quick look at our agenda for this session. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on here at NAB. We're going to talk a little bit about training available for IPMX. We're going to talk a little bit about the market demand for this topic. And we can deal with any questions towards the end of the presentation if there are any. So this is a quick look at the presentations taking place on this stage. There's one that took place yesterday. There's several today. You'll hear from different speakers on a variety of topics, dealing with what is IPMX, some of its benefits, some of the things you need to know. Right behind this pavilion, Theater 3, just behind me, there's something called the IP Showcase. And there you can see some very interesting demonstrations. You can see some SMPTE 2110 equipment. You can see some IPMX equipment, and you can see them working together. Also, AES 67 equipment working together. You can see some hardware and software working interoperably between these different things. So it's a nice mix. There's some of the new specifications of IPMX on feature as well, such as USB. So you could take a look at some of the different applications of USB over IP using IPMX. So it's a pretty nice demonstration. There's a lot of capabilities on that demo. There's conversions taking place, IP to IP conversions, where media from one thing is being converted to media of another thing, so that pretty useful systems can be built with the pieces that are in that demo. So I encourage everyone to go and take a look at that. On your chairs, there's a little pamphlet talking about training taking place tomorrow. There's engineers from the Video Services Forum and from AMWA that are going to be putting on a full training on IPMX from 10 to 2. This is going to cover all of the topics that you see on the screen. These are the essential blocks of information for IPMX, the relationship between IPMX and SMPTE 2110 and AES67. This is a really good session to meet the experts and to interact with the trade associations that are involved with IPMX tomorrow. There's a bunch of registrations already. It's first come, first served, but it's open to all. So we highly encourage you to take an interest in that. All right, let's talk a little bit about the market demand for IPMX. It begins with, of course, the trend happening everywhere, the migration from baseband to IP. In the broadcast world, this is what it looks like. Migration from SDI to IP, so it's a big deal. This transition has been underway for the last 10 years. SMPTE 2110 has done a very effective job reproducing the benefits that you can achieve on an SDI system. So the media supported by 2110 is compatible with SDI. The synchronization capabilities of SDI has been recreated with 2110 with PTP. There's lots of obvious benefits, but different markets are moving to IP with different approaches. 2110 is very popular as an SDI migration solution, but the interest in IP applies to all markets that are using cables to send their high performance content throughout their facilities. This little graph shows the interest in the massive demand for IP. So the blue dot represents the bandwidth capabilities of SDI. The red dot represents the bandwidth capabilities of HDMI. And you see that for a long time, what you could do on IP has been far in excess of what you can do on those cables. So should we care? Is there a need for all of that bandwidth? Well, it depends. Sometimes, you really can squeeze every little bit of that bandwidth depending on your application. Certainly the ability to provision for the future, if you're putting in a corporate AV infrastructure or a facilities AV infrastructure so that you can handle the requirements of today in HD or 4K, or if you're starting to use some of the new technologies that are squeezing a little bit more bandwidth out of your environment, such as higher um, uh, pixel accuracy, such as 10-bit and 12-bit color, like on LED walls, or if you're using higher frame rates in some applications, like 120 hertz. So doing 4K 60 hertz or 4K 120 hertz, 444 color space, 10-bit or 12-bit per color pixel starts to bring up that bandwidth requirement. And the next gen is 8K. So for people that are trying to put in infrastructure that will last a long time, they're obviously very interested in what the capabilities of IP are. So what about IPMX? The demand for IPMX is coming from a couple of different areas. If we take the audience at NAB, this is predominantly a SMPTE 2110 related interest to IPMX. People here at this type of show are interested in IPMX for a few things that they can add to a 2110 network. So they're predominantly interested in a 2110 system with uncompressed content and synchronization, but there are ingredients in IPMX that are useful, such as the ability to put privacy keys using the privacy encryption protocol and have encrypted content between competing brands, or HDCP support. Whatever element that was added to 2110 with IPMX, it's still predominantly in use, a 2110 system, but with a few extra things. That's one of the areas of demand. A second area of demand is the traditional Pro AV routing markets. So people that are, historically using Crestron and AMX and Extron type products. So these have been experimenting with migrations to IP for the last 10 years as well. They've used a variety of solutions, but have confronted some limitations to proprietary implementations, either proprietary chips or proprietary protocols. And their inability to mix and match the stuff that interests them has been a friction. So there's a natural latent demand from the Pro AV market as well to use an open standard for AV infrastructure. And another category is enterprise AV. So these are larger organizations that happen to have a mixture of things. They may have a broadcast studio in their facility, like a school. I see Tony back there. They may have an AV infrastructure to do signal routing. They may have some PC IT equipment that is running their enterprise communications like Zoom and Teams. And they can't restore easily a bridge between these different asset classes that they were able to achieve with HDMI cables and SDI cables. Remaining an IP while going between these assets is a friction. And we'll look at that in the next slide a little bit more closely. So I've organized the topic into three equipment classes. I call the first one professional equipment. Think of your, media production equipment, vision mixers, video wall controllers, presentation switchers, etc. Second category is AV signal management. That's, routing software intensive. That means being able to take sources and send content to that screen or that speaker in conference room or an auditorium or concert hall or whatever. And then, of course, the corporate PCIT. So those three previous categories that I mentioned earlier. So the group one, the interest for IPMX is the people who want to do advanced Pro AV applications using professional equipment and AV signal routing. The just traditional AV infrastructure migrating to IP, that's group two. And the larger organizations, big schools, enterprise customers that have equipment spanning all of these areas. So let's take a look at what's been going on traditionally. It's been no problem to mix assets from these different groups using baseband cables. In the worst case, we could use a little mini converter to go between SDI and HDMI. These mini converters were cheap, reliable, no skills required, so it's never been a problem to mix this equipment. But moving to IP is a problem if you want to stay in IP between these asset classes, because they've all begun their migration to IP differently. The professional equipment is either moving towards 2110 or NDI. The AV signal management equipment is either a proprietary implementation from an individual vendor or proprietary chips or proprietary protocols. The corporate PCIT stuff continues to heavily leverage the hardware acceleration for media that is in popular consumer electronics devices and IT equipment. So what's available on SoCs or GPUs or CPUs. So we're talking about a lot of highly compressed media like H.264 and HEVC, and that's what it gets used in popular applications like communication tools like Zoom and Teams, or content distribution applications, YouTube and whatever. So none of the IP protocols that are intended to replace baseband have really been able to span the requirements from all of these different areas. And IPMX is the first open standard to try to put in all of the necessary ingredients to be able to partake in each of these asset classes. Of course, there's a need for different media for these different asset classes. For example, the professional equipment might be dealing with high bandwidth uncompressed media. The signal management, it's very common to see light compression so that the networks are not too complicated, but there's a very good performance and latency of the system. And the, as I said earlier, corporate PC stuff is often using compressed media on things like tablets and phones and laptops and whatnot. So the IPMX is a part of the solution. It has the ingredients to support the media and networking conditions of all of these asset classes. The rest of the work has to be accomplished by new types of converters. So this replaces the SDI to HDMI converter that we just saw before with IP to IP converters, things that can help deal with conversions of uncompressed media to mezzanine or high compression codecs, or converting from codec A to codec B, or converting from different protocols, like moving from NDI to IPMX or IPMX to NDI, or being able to deal with synchronization issues. So, for example, HDMI sources are not synchronized to a house sync. What happens when you try to attach that to a system that is 2110 that is using synchronization? So there are IP to IP gateways that help deal with those kinds of problems that allow you to have more interoperable systems. So this is where the interest and the demand for IPMX is essentially coming from. So as I mentioned earlier, the topic of training is really picking up now. There's been a lot of interops for IPMX. There was an event at Everts in California 2 weeks ago where a bunch of different manufacturers came and did a JTNM-like interop with their various IPMX products. Some of the results are going to be published after NAB and shared. The first view of those results will be available in the training taking place in the meeting rooms just upstairs from here tomorrow between 10 and 2. That's open to everyone who wants to register and attend that training. That's a full training of IPMX with members of the VSF and AMWA talking about VSF TR10, which is the technical specifications of IPMX, and the people from AMWA covering NMOS, ISO 4, ISO 5, and IS 11, which are ingredients in IPMX as well. And beyond that, there's a big formal training that will be developed and launched this year that will be free and available to everyone online. This is going to cover lots of information about the technical aspects and commercial aspects of IPMX. So just look out for that. There's also going to be an effort to get accreditation from organizations that offer, AV credits for training as well. So this is a really quick look at some of the topics that will be in the training tomorrow. First of all, we're going to cover the IPMX profiles. So there's 5 profiles. An IPMX product must support at least 1 profile. The 5 profiles are uncompressed video, JPEG XS video, HEVC video, H.264, and audio PCM. There are profile feature enhancements to 2 of those profiles. One of them is the JPEG XS profile has an option to better handle desktop content at a low bit rate. So this is an option called TDC, or sometimes known as the flawless imaging profile of JPEG XS. So there's an IPMX test for that as well. If you have an IPMX product that supports the TDC option of JPEG XS, it also has to support the regular JPEG XS. So those are superset products. So that's how it works for those optional profile enhancements. And then there's capabilities in IPMX that are also optional, but for which there are official tests being developed and will be released to the public soon. So features like the ability to make an IPMX sender a TBC sender so that it could send to 2110 and AES67 receivers. The option for HDCP. So there's a specification in the VSF-TR10 called the HDCP Key Exchange Protocol that allows different products from different brands to exchange HDCP keys with each other. So this is a very useful tool to building interoperable systems if you need protected content between different products from different brands. Other optional features include the privacy encryption protocol. So same concept. It's the ability to have privacy keys loaded by users or integrators into different products from different brands and have a privacy encryption on the system for those products. Other features include USB and HDR and CEC. So all of this is going to be covered in the training tomorrow, and again, will be free online shortly after. So here's another really quick look. This is just a very quick eye shot of, IPMX senders being able to send to IPMX receivers. An IPMX receiver can also receive from an AES67 sender and can also receive from a SMPTE21 sender if the media is compatible. So the 2 colors here represent the blue is a system that does not require synchronization. So IPMX is flexible, where if there's no PTP on the network, the product still must work. So a transmitter must still transmit, a receiver must still receive. But if there is synchronization on the system, like the gray stuff on the bottom, then the PTP products must use the PTP on the system and must synchronize to it. One of the options that I mentioned in the earlier slide is some IPMX senders are enhanced with the ability to take asynchronous sources and turn them into something that will work on a synchronized system. So that type of IPMX sender can send to everything. It can send to IPMX receivers on a system with no sync, but it can also send to AES67 and 2110 receivers on systems with PTP. I'm a little bit short on time, and the session is only 20 minutes, so I'll just put this shot up for you to take a quick look. The IPMX trademark is something that is owned by Ames. You could learn about that in the booth right behind the IP showcase. The marketing rules for how to use IPMX labels on products is being governed by Ames. So this is one of the missions is to try to make a better labeling system and a better clarity for people to understand what products could be mixed and matched out of the box and have interoperability, and where you need to perhaps use gateway conversions for certain applications. So there's a lot of products that are already developing with IPMX. This includes media processing equipment, cameras, a lot of different displays, particularly large format displays, because IPMX is such a universal receiver. You can see a whole bunch of different software and hardware products in the booth right behind us at the IP showcase at your convenience. So we hope that large portion of you will consider attending the training tomorrow. Thank you for attending.